All right, so I'm really excited for today's content breakdown. I'm going to be digging into a brand that I love called Bowtex, which is fairly unknown right now in the motorcycle world, but doing some really cool things with underlayers that allow you to basically wear whatever clothes you want while getting the protection of a CE AAA rated garment. One interesting thing I found out about Bowtex as soon as I went to their site is I cannot find a blog. So what we're going to do today is a little bit different than what I normally do in a content breakdown. Instead of breaking down what they have, I am going to build a content strategy for Bowtex live as we talk. So I know a little bit about this brand, but otherwise I'm going into this pretty fresh and just coming up with some ideas off the top of my head of some competitors that I've looked at and whatnot. So we're going to get into today basically the competitors that we can study as Bowtex as far as content is concerned, then assess the opportunity. What is the topics that Bowtex can rank for? What kind of search volume are they getting? How much traffic do we think they can expect? And then we're going to build out basically the first content pillar. What is the first sort of hub that I would build out if I were Bowtex to get some traffic and get some attention onto their blog right from the get-go? Then we're going to get into additional pillars to add. So what are some other topics that we can cover within Bowtex's content that I think would do really well? And then fundamentals. What are the fundamentals that we need to keep in mind when we're creating content? And this goes for any brand. These are pretty general fundamentals that I'll get into about content quality and topic selection and whatnot. Cool. So by the way, my name is Evan. My team and I built a motorcycle gear review media site to 250,000 visitors a year, and the average page on that site sold over $2,000 worth of gear in the last 12 months. And it's all educational content and buyer's guides about motorcycle gear. So my team is very skilled at creating really high quality content that draws people in. And I'm focusing on motorcycles, one, because I love motorcycles, but also because I notice in this industry that blogs are completely underutilized. And most brands, even big brands in the space, they don't have a blog at all, or they don't have a good blog. And a lot of them are just not doing a few things right, that if they change that, it would not mean that much more investment, but they would be making literally 5 to 10 to 100x their investment just off organic content, not just in sales, but they would be getting that back in time for their support teams, in community engagement, just people loving their brand that much more because they're creating really useful content. So we do this as a business, as an agency. So if you'd like a content breakdown done on your site just to see how we would think through the problems your brand is facing, or if you want to work with us to create content, my email is down in the description, or you can just drop a comment. I look at the comments every day. Cool. So on to the breakdown, or shall I say the buildup for Bowtex's content strategy. So one thing I've noticed about Bowtex is that there is a ton of interest in their product. So one of the first videos that I ever made for motorcycle gear in general, I made it on my kind of channel that I've had for a long time for a lot of different topics called Evan Meets Road, only has 600 followers. And this video, horrible video of just me sitting and talking about Bowtex for 7 minutes, got 52,000 views in a matter of weeks when I posted this. So there's clear interest in Bowtex's product. They just aren't capitalizing on that by creating the content that people are searching for, that they're going to find and then positively associate Bowtex with when they get value from that content. So as far as marketing, Bowtex is not doing anything organic on their site. Like they have a story page, they have a press page where there's us, where they're repeating people who are doing reviews, when they're doing interviews or presentations at trade shows and things, they're putting that on this page. They have one page on technology, which actually I'll get into info gain later, but has some incredibly useful info. And I think the only other site I've seen with this level of information is Revit. And they have a similar problem where it's not well organized and they're not really using it in multiple ways. So this is a huge gold mine of information, but it's just one post. This is a map of their retailers. So they're focused on Europe, but I know they're trying to grow into the United States as well. So they are doing a little bit of Instagram, they're doing Facebook, they're doing influencer stuff, but again, nothing with organic content, not even YouTube. They only have 13 videos on here and it's all pretty old. So there's a ton of opportunity here for Bowtex that we're going to dig into. So the first thing that I want to do is just look at competitors, because there are a couple competitors that are doing a similar thing to Bowtex. We can take a look at their products here really quick. So they have these, they call Bowtex Elite line, which is a shirt and leggings. And then they have Optimal that are slightly thinner and lighter. And now they're doing this Essential Ultralight as well. And they have ladies versions too. So they basically make just these underlayers. There are other companies that are doing this in addition to other things like Knox. Knox has a pretty well built out blog that gives us some indication of what might work for Bowtex. This is one post format that I absolutely love, which is like roundups of gear for different use cases. So Knox makes more than just their underlayers, and they mention different products in these, but instead of just writing like, here's all of Knox underlayers or here are Knox's gloves, they are writing from the perspective of the rider and what the rider is looking for. So someone might be going on a trip in the desert. What do I wear in the desert? This is the type of thing that AI crawlers and that Google's crawlers are going to identify as useful for that query and serve that to that customer. So these types of things like worked around the what I call ideal customer profile for Bowtex, which is like urban riders, commuters, hot weather riders. What kind of content can Bowtex create around those topics that'll start drawing people in who might be interested in Bowtex? Maybe not for that purchase specifically, but will want to buy Bowtex in the future. So I'm going to write Knox here. Great blog with story-driven content, gear guides and reviews, and even bike reviews. Like that's one thing that Bowtex could take from this is writing gear roundups relevant to underlayers or their ICP, like urban riders. They could be doing bike reviews of bikes relevant to their ICP. So they could be doing, cafe racer, scrambler reviews, classic bike reviews, custom bike reviews, just creating interesting content. That stuff, if they're writing about production bikes, bikes actually do insanely well in search. They get way more, people are searching way more for bike reviews than they are for gear reviews. So writing about a popular new production bike like the Honda GB350 that used to be only sold in Japan. It's now being, I believe, is starting to be sold around the world. That would be a great bike for them to get their hands on, or even find an influencer that they're working with who has ridden that bike. Hey, can you write us just 500 words about this? Then you can create a blog post out of that with a ghostwriter and put up a review of, here's a review of the GB350 by our team or by Sarah Lazito or somebody that they work with who is known to create some content that Google can then pick up when people are searching, what is the GB350 like? Or GB350 reviews. They're going to start popping up for that. Then people are going to find out what Bowtex is. And again, that bike is very relevant for the type of rider that Bowtex is trying to get. So that's one idea. Bike reviews would do well. Gift guides are really good. We've done well with those on our site as well, and they're doing them for different price points too. Then another brand that I want to look at is Pandomoto. Pando, we'll talk about this again later, but they have this amazing category on their blog called Crash Tested, which I think is something that Bowtex should just take straight up. It's such a good idea. They've built a whole cycle around this where basically they will give free product to customers who show a crash. So if you crash in Pando gear, you take a picture of it and document the crash and tell Pando a little bit about what happened and send that to them. They make a blog post out of it and the customer gets a new piece of gear. So it's a really great way that the customer's incentivized to not to crash. Obviously, no one wants to crash, but when they crash, they are incentivized to show Pando what happened. If it wasn't good, that helps Pando's product team develop and improve. If it was good, it becomes a piece like this. And what I love these pieces for is they prove the quality of the workmanship of this company. So a lot of people, they look at these underlayers, it's a very new category. They're used to, if they've been riding for 20 years, they're used to leathers and all this gear, and they think, well, it's too light. It's too comfortable. It can't be protective. Well, when you have a content series like this becomes your shield to those objections. Basically, you can say, well, look, this guy crashed in it and he was totally fine. I know that that Bowtex has a video of their founder sliding on their leggings and showing that they don't tear. That's great, but it's also coming from the founder. People are going to say, oh, you lied, you made that up. So it's very authoritative when you can have, these are real customers who actually bought our product, and here's 50 of them that crashed in this. So if Bowtex were to create a system like that, again, Pando, it's not just that they're writing these posts, they are encouraging people to send in these posts basically through the free gear program. So there's a whole system that they've created that's quite ingenious to get this content. But Pando also writes about, actually I'm going to grab that really quick. They also write about all kinds of different topics on their blog. Ooh, new one. So they do different influencer collaborations, writing about motorcycle gear, what motorcycle gear to wear in summer. Great topic for Bowtex to take an angle on. So they cover a lot of different topics, buyer's guides and stories. So I'm just going to say buyer's guides as well. And then the other one that I looked at, but actually is another example of why Bowtex should get moving on this, is Bone Body Armor. They have similar shorts and these shirts, underlayer shirts that are protective and hold armor in place. They also have no blog. So again, I think Bowtex has a really unique opportunity to completely define what underlayers mean to the motorcycle space, to completely define that space. And like Knox, Pando, Bone, they are making these products, but it's not their focus. In Bone's case, it's a little bit more their focus, but they don't have any blog. So Bowtex could be dominating this space, but it's very much a first mover advantage because content moves slowly. It takes several months for it to permeate through Google and AI crawlers and for them to trust it and rank it. And you have to be consistent. You have to always be creating content and creating useful, high quality content and that is basically your moat. Once you have 500 blog posts that are all really well researched and well written, it's a lot harder for any of these competitors to start to enter that space. It just takes a lot of time and investment and focus really to achieve that. So assessing opportunity, what topics can Bowtex rank for? So this is when I whip open a keyword research tool like Ahrefs, and we look at what are some of the topics that Bowtex could be ranking for. So the thing I'm thinking about when I'm looking at this is what is the customer profile of Bowtex, and then what are those customers looking for that Bowtex could kind of relate to and write content about. So I kind of speak in vague terms because I don't want brands to think all I can write about is what I do. Because especially for Bowtex, they only have really two products, the top and the leggings. So if you write a couple articles on that, great, but Google is not going to think you're an authority. They need a lot of content to really consider you an authority on a topic. So you're not going to rank with it. It's not going to do anything. And then you're going to say, content doesn't work and leave literally millions of dollars on the table. So what I'm looking for here is what are the customers who would want to buy Bowtex looking for? And that is basically motorcycle riders. So I have a lot of different terms up here: daily rider, moto, motorbike, motorcycle, all the way to like sport bike, street riding, urban commuting, urban rider, which is going to have some extra unrelated keywords for sure for like bicycles and whatnot, but gives us a broad overview. And then I include all these terms that are relevant to gear in general. So base layers, underlayers, which is literally what Bowtex does, armored leggings, that kind of thing. But then we get past that to like shirt jacket, mesh jacket, armored hoodie, hip armor. Like Bowtex doesn't make armored hoodies, but someone who is looking for an armored hoodie, they're looking for something that looks casual on the bike. So if we can rank for that with content from Bowtex and then show them, hey, you don't actually have to buy this expensive and not that protective hoodie. You can buy Bowtex and then wear any of your hoodies over top. That's what I love about this product. It's so flexible that we can rank for all these different topics and write useful content for all these topics and have the same call to action in each one. You know, if you want to wear a leather jacket on a bike, but you don't want to be locked into wearing this or that motorcycle jacket, or you have a bunch of jackets that you want to wear just out in the city, then wear Bowtex underneath and wear your favorite jacket over top. So there's lots of different ways that they could rank for these different topics. So I'm going to say like any casual clothing topics related to motorcycling or to Bowtex's ICP. So I'm going to say urban riders, commuters, and what was the other one? I'll just leave it at that. Urban riders and commuters. Thought I had a third one. And then the other thing I'm looking for here is just the search volume and the number of keywords. So we've got over 5,000 keywords here that Bowtex could rank for and a search volume of 50,000. So again, these numbers are kind of rough. Like I've found that I can rank something that Ahrefs is saying has 10 searches a month and I'm getting 1,000 visits a month. There's also different ways that Google and AI are picking up content and showing it to customers, like through Google Discover, which has been really useful for our site. So you kind of have to take these with a grain of salt, but it gives you some directional idea. You know, if this was 5K, I would say, all right, there's not that much opportunity for Bowtex, but 50K, and especially considering that Bowtex can hit on some more fashion-oriented topics, those are things that will show up more in like Google Discover and different places that aren't represented in this traffic number in that. This is what I'm looking for, SV 50,000. So I'm going to say 50,000 searches a month, but also count on Discover traffic can be very high. Like I can get thousands of visits a month from Discover on a topic that has 10 search volume a month. Then potential hubs. So this is where I'm going to look through the keywords and just think about what are the different kind of categories and overall topics that Bowtex could write about that would be helpful to their customers. So like riding jeans. This is a good one that's very fashion oriented, right? People are looking for that look. They want jeans. They're not looking for the most protective thing necessarily. They want jeans. So there's a good chance they want to look casual on the bike. And actually, Bowtex was a big part of my aha moment that I can wear these underlayers like from Bowtex and wear whatever jeans I want on top. So I don't have to buy special jeans that are tough and they have the armor built into it not that well sometimes. And then I have to wear that out when I go for a ride. I go out, go to dinner or something, I have to wear it the whole time. Well, I can just wear my favorite pair of jeans and I can take them off I can take off the underlayers in the bathroom or something if I really want to be comfortable. But honestly, in Thailand, I wear Bowtex underneath my favorite jeans all the time. And I don't even notice it because they flow air so well. So that's the type of topic where if you can write a lot of content about jeans, even if you are telling people, hey, if you literally want motorcycle jeans, here's the ones that we recommend. But by the way, if you want to wear whatever jeans you already have that you already love, then just wear Bowtex underneath. You get the same, if not better, protection and definitely better airflow. So riding jeans is a good one. Cold weather gear. So I went to Japan and brought Bowtex and realized that works really well for riding in the cold because I can wear actual technical layers instead of wearing like a 3-season motorcycle jacket where even with all the vents zipped up, it's not the best insulation. It's much better to wear an actual winter parka coat that's made for going to the South Pole. That's going to keep you warmer. So I would wear Bowtex underneath, and then wear, I think I had a Patagonia R1, and then I was wearing a Rab jacket over that, and I was toasty and so comfortable because those are my two favorite jackets anyway. And then I was getting the protection of the Bowtex underneath. So cold weather gear, obviously moto leggings, mesh jackets is a great one because it's kind of hitting on the same need, right? Someone who's searching for a mesh motorcycle jacket, they want something that flows a lot of air, that's comfortable. That's exactly what Bowtex can do for them. Lightweight motorcycle gear would be good. Armored hoodies, like armored hoodie motorcycle. So casual clothes even for motorcycling. So just a couple ideas of potential hubs. But I want to move on from that into what I think is Bowtex's first content pillar. So where I see a lot of brands struggle when they have decided, I want to create content, I want to start a blog, it's like, what do we write about? And I see tons of brands get stuck at this level of just when something happens, they write a blog post. And to me, that is like the biggest waste of your blog, to just write about events, like, hey, we went to this event, and it's like a 300-word post about, we did this event and it was cool. Okay, nobody's searching for that. Your customers probably aren't reading that because it's not adding much value for them. It's only like your super die-hard customers that love your brand so much that are going to read that content. But a lot of brands, they just feel like we have a blog, we got to put stuff up. So the way to combat that is you have to have pillars and basically categories. Like, what do we write about? And then have these categories where you can constantly add new things to them. So the first pillar that I would build out if I were Bowtex is basically the foundational highest ROI, like what I will call internal link anchors, the pieces that everything else that we write afterward can link to, that's really high value, evergreen content that now and in the future is going to be useful, that people are searching for. So for example, people are not going to be searching for Bowtex Elite when Bowtex is 5 versions down the road and they've changed the name and they have a new product. That's not evergreen content. Evergreen content is like hot weather motorcycle gear. People in 20 years are still going to be looking for hot weather motorcycle gear. So that's the type of topic that we want to nail first. So a couple ideas that I had for this foundational content. One is AAA versus AA for riding. Like, where does it matter? What's the difference between these two ratings? You see AA, AAA thrown out a lot, but not very good understanding of what do these mean in reality. So you can show scenarios by speeds and roads. You can explain the testing methodology, how that works, what it actually means. You can compare armor coverage. And then you can, of course, link to Elite and Essential to basically show these are the two products that we offer in these two buckets. And back to this technology page, this is what Bowtex already has. They already have really good information, really good images demonstrating all of this. They just need to put that in the right format so that Google and these different website crawlers are understanding what that means and showing it to people who are actually looking for it. So you can definitely mine this to create that content. Also, underlayers versus jackets, like what is better for comfort, what is better for safety day to day. Show several different use cases. Like, I'm a commuter, I'm an adventure rider, I'm an urban rider just going to the cafe on the bike or going out to dinner with my friends. Here's the different things, like setups that we would recommend basically, and compare and contrast jackets versus wearing an underlayer. And of course, being Bowtex, you can promote the underlayer as much as you want. You know, be fair, because people are going to respect your brand for that. If Bowtex is really not the right solution, don't tell people to buy Bowtex. You're just going to have unhappy customers. And I'm pretty sure that Robert and the Bowtex team totally understand that. So write useful content and recommend useful products to people, and they will respect your brand, and they will be more likely to share your content with other people who then might want to buy that. And it's good signals to Google as well that this is useful content that people want to see, so it's going to show it to more potential customers. And as long as you're writing good, authentic content, you're going to be getting a lot of good leads and good sales. So I'm just going to write down a couple of these. AAA versus AA, already have the meat of this piece here. Just this one, and then we have armored jackets versus underlayers. This is where you can kind of explain the concept too. And then compare the two across different use cases. What else? You can do just an explainer on Dyneema, Kevlar, Cordura. These are names that get thrown around a ton in the motorcycle space, and there are searches for this. People are searching for what are these things? Like, what's the difference? How does it matter on the bike or in terms of protection? So we can say material breakdown and comparison, which is Dyneema, Kevlar, Cordura, etc. So you can compare all of that stuff. Sizing and fit, especially like armor. How do you get armor to stay put? Sizing and fit for jackets, pants, leggings. This is a huge one that I run into with just motorcycle gear in general, especially helmets. People don't really know how to size a helmet. And we wrote some really good content on that, and we get a lot of traffic, and we make a lot of sales because of that traffic around helmets. But we also get it with jackets, with pants. People don't really know how to size these things properly, and what actually ensures safety. Because if you're not wearing the right fit, if you've been in motorcycles for any time at all, if you're not wearing the right fit, you know that it's probably just as dangerous as not wearing stuff at all. So nailing that and really providing a lot of solutions around sizing and fit, that could be super, super helpful for that first content pillar. Basically just really informational content for riders. A couple other ideas I had is like dressing safely for urban riders, just focusing on use cases, hot weather, motorcycle gear. There's lots of ways to cover that. Best motorcycle gear, still made in Europe. I think this is one that is growing. Interest in things made in Europe, or Americans wanting things made in the US, whether that's for nationalistic wants or just a quality or even perceived quality. And there are not a lot of gear brands that are now making their gear in Europe, and I know Bowtex sources and makes their gear all in Europe. So harping on that fact is something that I think maybe there's not that much search volume for it, not that many people seeking it out right now, but it's definitely going to matter when, for instance, AI search is starting to take over how people are finding products, to feed the AI with a lot of content that's saying we are made in Europe, we are made in Europe. Then when people are sending these long queries to AI basically saying, I ride a cafe racer, I'm looking for a jacket, I really want a high quality jacket, ideally that's made in Europe, Bowtex is going to come up first, because you've told all these crawlers repeatedly and you've shown them the authority that you are made in Europe. Cool. So that's where I would start with content. The other thing you can do to fill out this list is mine the data that you already have on your customers. So conversations that you've had at EICMA, email back and forths, things like that. What are people interested in that is leading them to Bowtex as a solution? And then write all those angles. Again, this isn't everything that you could write, but it's the highest priority because it's gonna lead people right to Bowtex as a solution and funnels directly to your brand and to your products. So that's why I would write it first. The other thing you can do kind of throughout all of this is repurpose the existing social proof that you already have. So there's already press and reviews. People are reviewing these and writing about them. I wrote about them. Different magazines are writing about them. Bennett's Pike Social has reviewed the Bowtex Elite, and that's a huge, really positive review. So using that content and repurposing it, like when you're writing AAA versus AA and you're talking about slide times or whatever, you can say, hey, and one of our crash tested people that crashed in this, they were going 75 and it didn't rip. Things like that. You can start to slide those in as comments throughout these different pieces. Or I'm blanking on his name right now, but the guy from John from Bike Social, he told us this and this and this about Dyneema and Kevlar and Cordura. It just adds authority to the piece, both for the algorithms that are reading this content and trying to parse out whether it's good or not, but also for readers who, hey, I know, I've heard of John from Bennett's at Bike Social. I can't believe that he reviewed this product as well. It just adds a lot of weight to what you say in your blogs. So repurposing that existing social proof. You have it, may as well use it. So additional pillars to add. As I said earlier, I think the goal here is to make Bowtex the category leader for AAA underlayers. No one else has really tried to dominate this space yet, and the category is really underexplained on the web. So I would own this category kind of with two tiers of content. One is what I would think of as like an academy or evergreen content, like what we were talking about earlier, AAA versus AA, armor jackets versus underlayers. These are big foundational educational topics that people are searching for. It captures these sort of problem solution queries, covering standards, materials, sizing, fit for women, these different topics that people are always going to be searching for that create the core of the content. Buyer's guide's another really, really good one. And then in-use content. So covering reviews like influencers are doing of these products, when people are taking trips and writing about them and wearing your products. This is kind of the this sort of like creative brand side of doing content. Climate tests, different UGC and crash stories, like crash tested type stories. These are the things that you can then link back to those main pieces and include some anecdotes in those main pieces to fill them out and really give them personality. So that's what I would do. Two tiers. You have evergreen stuff, and then you have sort of story-driven stuff. Again, I would say cover adjacent topics to Bowtex's core products. Don't just write about jackets, pants, underlayers. Write about gloves. Write about cold weather, hot weather, tours, all these different things that may not directly relate to Bowtex, but they are going to help pull people in from all over the motorcycle universe who may not have known about Bowtex and start to create a relationship with your brand so that they know you, they respect you, they like your products. And then whether they buy or not, they are now part of your marketing engine. They're sharing your content. They're finding it useful. Start a crash tested program. That's a huge one that I would do immediately. Another thing that I was thinking about is, this goes a little bit beyond content, but partnering with brands to photo shoot their stuff and sell Bowtex with it. So show how a brand that is popular with motorcycle riders or popular with the motorcycle lifestyle, like Deus Ex Machina comes to mind immediately. Do some collaborations with them where you can create content out of that can be used across socials. You can make blog posts out of it, but you can use that on Facebook, Instagram, all over the place, and essentially associate Bowtex with that fashion, with that style. Because a lot of riders, I think, that are going to find a lot of value in Bowtex are the ones who they like the style, they like the look on the bike, and they want to take photos, they want to look good, they want to have that casual flex to their entire gear getup, and normal motorcycle gear doesn't do that for them, but Bowtex does. So those are the kind of partnerships where you can suddenly blow up the brand visibility because you're connecting to a much wider group of riders in a much bigger community. So like Deus Ex Machina, that was one that I thought of. I'm going to copy all this down. Put it in here for Bowtex for later. Cool. other ideas. And then technology as well. That was the final thing that I wanted to mention. Showcase the fibers, the creation process, the strength, the comfort, the airflow, all these things. Just show how Bowtex actually works and how it's better than a lot of the other materials out there, or just who it's really for. Cool. So that is down the road. Let's see. Fundamentals. So I will now get into the fundamentals. Basically, I have four things to say here and then some information under each. The first is writing engaging content. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if the content isn't good, there's no point in writing the blog. Like, you're actually probably going to damage your brand by not writing good content. Second thing is consistency and patience. You have to be consistent with a blog. You have to post, I recommend, like 2 to 5 times per week, regularly be putting out content, and then give it time. A new blog is going to take 3 to 6 months to rank pretty much anything. But from that point forward, as long as you're providing good content will rank a lot faster. So like content that we write now will rank in a matter of days. And our site is only 2 years old. We only have about 300 pieces on there. So it ranks much, much quicker once you've had it up for a while. Then the third thing is repurposing. So I've said this in a lot of other content breakdowns, but a blog post is an idea. You can use it everywhere. So when you write that blog post about the best hot weather motorcycle gear, don't just leave it on the blog. Repurpose that into a Facebook post, into an Instagram post, into a YouTube video. The great thing is now you can use AI tools to basically do this in one click. Like, we've built out a whole workflow to do this across socials. So it's very simple to create all this different content and to create high quality versions of it too. I think that's a lot of people forget with AI is you still have to look at it and check it and quality test it and add information to it. But when you create that blog post, you're already putting in most of the work. You're putting in all the information, all the what I call info gain, all that unique information that you have as a brand that makes that piece better than everything else that people can find out there. So you already have that meat. That's what AI needs to produce good output. So you can get pretty good output with one click on Facebook, Instagram, all these different places, because it will basically take all that and carve it to exactly what works well on these different platforms. It'll create a YouTube script for you. It'll create blocking on how you should shoot it and give you some ideas. And then you can go on and do that. So it basically shaves 90% of the time off for your social team, for your video people, all of that. So that's repurposing. And then measurement. Measurement is the fourth thing. You have to measure. A lot of brands, they just put content up and I hope that it's doing something. But you can measure all of this, especially if it's on your own site like this. You can measure what are people clicking, where are they going, are they buying things? And we can build out dashboards for you like I have for my site, where you can see exactly the dollars that each piece is driving, the traffic, the time on site. And then basically you can go back every month or every quarter and review what is doing well and what's not doing well. And then that informs your strategy going forward. It informs your templates and your briefs, how you write, your voice, all of that gets better and better. And basically by iterating through that process is how we got our site from producing about 10 cents in sales per page on the site to over $2 in gear sales per page, average per page. Sorry, that's not per page. That is per visitor. $2 per visitor from 10 cents per visitor. It's about $2,000 per page. So that's how we got that number to basically do 21x is by iteratively improving the content and improving the strategy, writing better and better content. And that's basically what we would bring to Bowtex and any other brand that's interested when we're talking about doing content. So I give a little bit more detail on each of those fundamentals here. I'll just drop the bullet points in here, and then you can pause and read as well, but I'll walk through these quickly. As far as content, intro is 90% of it. If people don't go past the intro and bounce because they don't find it relevant or they aren't entertained, then there's no point in writing the rest of the blog post. So I have an acronym called SPEAR that was developed by a friend of mine, Jamie, who's a very, very good copywriter. Basically stands for search intent. Man, I'm blanking on the rest, but I know S is search intent, P is something, E is something, A is something, and R is rapport. A is authority. So basically the long and the short of SPEAR is you want people to land and within the first 2 or 3 sentences get a good sense for what you're going to tell them and that you are the right person to tell them that, and then why they are there, like hitting on that search intent. When you write something about hot weather motorcycle gear, you don't just want to say, wow, it's so hot on the bike, I'm so uncomfortable, here's some ways to make myself comfortable. You want to tell a story about how your change in gear choices benefited you riding and how it really, you got super dehydrated and you didn't enjoy riding because it was so hot out until you discovered this gear. Write intros that are much more engaging. If you want to see examples of that, just go to any page on our site. It's betterontheroad.com. We really follow this intro format pretty religiously, so you'll see that all over the site. Then sort customers up front. So what products are right for whom, especially in buyer's guides. You want to really quickly show customers that you understand them and you give them the answer that they're looking for. A lot of people, when they're searching like best hot weather motorcycle gear, they just want the answer. They just want to find the piece of gear. They don't want you to tell them, 2-page story about your ride in Florida last year. They want to see that right at the beginning to kind of draw them in to create curiosity, and then boom, here's what we recommend for you based on the type of rider you are. Including images, huge one that so many brands completely missed for some reason. Mix of inspirational and informative images. So you want to have some images that are kind of showing the lifestyle and the vibe of your gear and your brand, but then you also want informative content and informative pictures that makes it really easy to understand things like safety and safety certifications, like these great graphics. And again, if you're not producing great content, you're doing damage to your brand. There's no point in making bad blog content. Consistency, I already went through all of that. Repurposing, so a couple other ideas like doing email, doing retailer embeds, giving content to retailers, or asking retailers to link to pages like this safety page that are really useful for their customers. Harvesting UGC when people are posting about it, reusing that in as embeds in posts, and press refresh, so just keeping that up to date, and again using that within blogs, using that within social media, and then measurement, already talked about that. Cool. So I think that's pretty much everything that I had to go through to build out a quick content strategy for Bowtex. If this was helpful, please leave me a comment. Let me know other brands you want me to break down or do a content strategy for. I love doing these. It's really fun for me to think on my feet like this. Cool. That's all I got for you guys today. Thanks. Peace. Ah.